I don't care how old you are, get your hands behind your back. Now! The command shattered the sterile silence of the pharmacy, bouncing off the linoleum floors. Officer Sean O'Brien didn't wait for compliance. He grabbed the woman's frail wrist, twisting it with the practiced efficiency of a man hunting for a promotion, not justice. The crowd gasped. A pill bottle clattered to the floor, rolling in a dizzying circle. "You're making a mistake, son," the woman said. Her voice wasn't loud, nor was it afraid. It was the terrifying calm of the ocean before a tsunami. "The only mistake," Sean sneered, tightening the cuffs until they clicked, "is you thinking you could forge a signature like this in my city." She turned her head, her eyes locking onto his with a weight that made his badge feel heavy on his chest. She leaned in, whispering the words that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Check the signature on the bottom line, officer, before you sign your own resignation." The air conditioning in the chaotic pharmacy hummed with a low industrial drone, fighting a losing battle against the stifling afternoon heat. It was a Tuesday, the kind of mundane, slow Tuesday that Officer Sean O'Brien despised. He sat in his patrol car, parked diagonally across from the drugstore entrance, tapping his fingers against the steering wheel. He was 27, handsome in a sharp-edged, aggressive way, with a jawline he liked to think projected authority. In reality, it mostly projected impatience. He had been a uniformed officer for 4 years. He wanted the gold shield of a detective. He wanted the suits, the respect, and the big busts. He didn't want to be babysitting a strip mall in the suburbs. "You're staring again," Aaron Scott said from the passenger seat. Aaron was older, softer around the edges, a man who viewed policing as a civic duty rather than a ladder to climb. He was peeling the wrapper off a granola bar with infuriating slowness. "I'm observing," Sean corrected, narrowing his eyes. "That place is a hot spot. Victor, the pharmacist, told me he's had people trying to pass fake scripts for Oxy all month." "Victor is paranoid," Aaron chewed thoughtfully. "He called 911 last week because a teenager was wearing a hoodie in August." "Gut instinct, Aaron. You either have it or you don't." Sean's gaze hardened. A woman was exiting a taxi. She moved slowly, relying on a cane with a polished mahogany handle. She was an elderly black woman, dressed in an immaculate tweed coat that seemed too heavy for the weather, and a vintage hat pinned carefully to her silver hair. To anyone else, she looked like a grandmother on an errand. To Sean, she looked like a mule. "Look at that," Sean pointed. "Coat's too big, bulky, hiding something. She's looking around, checking for surveillance." "She's looking for the curb so she doesn't trip," Aaron sighed, dusting crumbs off his lap. "Let it go, Sean." But Sean was already opening the door. He adjusted his belt, feeling the familiar weight of the gun and the radio. "I'm going in, just a friendly check-in." Inside, the pharmacy smelled of rubbing alcohol and cheap candy. The fluorescent lights were harsh, bleaching the color out of everything. Sean walked the aisles, his boots squeaking softly. He positioned himself behind a display of vitamins, watching the counter. The woman was there. She had placed a piece of paper on the high counter and was speaking to Victor. Victor, a balding man with nervous sweat permanently beading on his upper lip, was squinting at the paper. His hands were shaking. I can't fill this, ma'am," Victor stammered, his voice rising in pitch. "The dosage, it's incredibly high, and this doctor, I don't have this doctor in my system." "It is a specialist script," the woman said. Her voice was rich, cultured, and undeniably firm. "Call the number on the letterhead if you are confused." "I don't have time to call," Victor snapped, clearly agitated by the line forming behind her. He looked up and locked eyes with Sean. The panic in the pharmacist's eyes was the signal Sean had been waiting for. Sean strode forward, closing the distance in 3 long strides. He felt the adrenaline spike, the drug of choice for the ambitious. "Problem here, Victor?" Sean asked, his voice booming intentionally. Victor jumped. "Officer, yes. This prescription. It looks fake. The signature is a mess and the drug, it's a restricted narcotic. She's insisting I give it to her." Sean turned to the woman. Up close, she was shorter than he expected, but she didn't shrink away. Her face was a map of deep lines and history, her eyes dark and intelligent. "Let me see that." Sean snatched the paper from the counter before she could protest. "That is private medical information," the woman said. She didn't sound angry. She sounded disappointed. Sean scanned the document. It was for a potent opioid, a quantity that screamed distribution to his trained eye. The signature at the bottom was a scrawl, illegible. "Fake ID," Sean demanded, holding out his hand. "I am not carrying my identification today," she said smoothly. "My driver is bringing my purse. He had to park the car around the block." "Likely story," Sean huffed. "No ID, trying to score a heavy load of narcotics with a piece of paper that looks like it was signed during an earthquake. You know what this looks like to me?" "I imagine it looks like an opportunity for you," she said. The comment stung. It was too accurate. Sean's face reddened. He felt the eyes of the customers on him. He needed to control the situation. He needed to dominate the space. "Turn around," Sean ordered. "Young man," she began, gripping her cane. "You are making a grave assumption." "I said turn around," Sean shouted, losing his temper. He grabbed her arm. The physical contact changed everything. The air left the room. Victor gasped. The woman stiffened, her posture becoming rigid steel. "You are hurting me," she stated. "You're under arrest for attempting to obtain a controlled substance by fraud," Sean recited the charge, pulling her arms behind her back. He heard the cane hit the floor with a hollow clack. He cuffed her, the metal ratcheted tight on her thin wrists. That was when she whispered it. That was when she leaned in, her scent of lavender and old paper washing over him, and delivered the line about the signature. "Check the signature on the bottom line, officer, before you sign your own resignation." Sean hesitated for a fraction of a second. He looked down at the paper, still clutched in his hand. The signature was messy, yes. But looking closer, it wasn't just a doctor's scrawl. It was stylized, distinctive. He shoved the paper into his pocket. Bluffing, he told himself. Just a scared criminal bluffing. "Let's go," he growled, marching her toward the door. He didn't pick up her cane. The heat outside was a physical wall, thick and oppressive, as they exited the pharmacy. Sean guided the woman, he still didn't have a name, and she refused to give it, toward the patrol car. He pushed her head down, perhaps a little more forcefully than necessary, to get her into the back seat. Aaron was standing by the hood of the car, his mouth slightly open. He looked from the elderly woman in the back seat to Sean, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Sean!" Aaron hissed, moving to intercept his partner before he could get in the driver's side. "What the hell are you doing?" "Making a bust, Aaron. That's what we're paid for." Sean brushed past him, but Aaron grabbed his elbow. "She's 80 years old if she's a day. She has a cane, Sean. You left her cane in the store?" "It's a prop," Sean scoffed, wrenching his arm free. "You saw the script. It was for 90 pills. 90! That's not for back pain, that's for the street. She's a mule. Probably thinks her age is a shield. Well, it doesn't work with me." Aaron looked at the woman through the glass. She was sitting perfectly upright, despite her hands being cuffed behind her back. She wasn't crying. She wasn't pleading. She was staring straight ahead, her expression unreadable. "I have a bad feeling about this," Aaron muttered. "Did you run her name?" "She forgot her ID," Sean used air quotes, rolling his eyes. "Classic stall tactic. We'll print her at the station. Once I get her in the system and link her to the local dealers, the lieutenant is going to have to give me that detective slot. This is proactive policing." They got into the car. The interior smelled of stale coffee and sanitizer. Sean started the engine and pulled out into traffic aggressively, cutting off a delivery truck. "Ma'am," Aaron said, turning in his seat to look at her through the plexiglass divider. "I'm Officer Scott. Are you injured? Do you need medical attention?" The woman turned her eyes to Aaron. "I need competent legal counsel, Officer Scott, and I need your partner to learn the difference between ambition and stupidity." Sean laughed, a sharp, barking sound. "Save it for the judge, lady." "Oh, I intend to," she replied softly. The drive to the precinct was usually a time for banter, for decompressing. Today, the silence was suffocating. Sean tapped his fingers on the wheel, humming a tune, trying to fill the void. He felt electric, charged with the thrill of the capture. He kept glancing in the rearview mirror, expecting to see her crack. He wanted tears. He wanted a confession. Instead, he saw her watching him. She was studying him like a biological specimen under a microscope. "You have a family, officer?" she asked suddenly. "None of your business," Sean snapped. "I have a grandson," she continued, her voice steady. "He is about your age. He is impulsive too. He thinks the world owes him something because he is talented. I tell him talent is nothing without discipline, and authority is nothing without humility." "I don't need a lecture from a drug dealer," Sean said, taking a corner too fast. "Sean, slow down," Aaron warned, gripping the handle above the door. "She's trying to get in my head," Sean said, accelerating. "It's a tactic. Disarm the arresting officer. Humanize yourself. I learned this in the academy." "You learned a lot of things in the academy," the woman said. "It is a pity you didn't learn how to read people." "I read you just fine," Sean retorted. "You're a criminal." "We shall see," she said. She turned her gaze out the window, watching the city blur by. Aaron shifted uncomfortably. "Sean, seriously, what if the script is real? Victor makes mistakes. Remember the insulin incident?" "The signature was trash, Aaron, and she had no ID. The probable cause is solid. Stop being such a wet blanket. When I'm a detective, I'll remember you helped me bring in the matriarch of the East Side pill ring." "I don't want credit for this," Aaron said quietly. "I really don't." They pulled into the precinct sallyport. The heavy metal gate rattled shut behind them, plunging the garage into shadow. Sean killed the engine. "Showtime," Sean grinned. He got out and opened the back door. "Let's go, Grandma, end of the line." He hauled her out. She stumbled slightly without her cane, and Aaron instinctively reached out to steady her. She nodded a curt thanks to Aaron, ignoring Sean completely. As they walked toward the booking doors, Sean patted his pocket to ensure the seized prescription was there. It felt like a winning lottery ticket. He had no idea it was actually a death warrant for his career. The 12th precinct was a hive of controlled chaos. Phones rang incessantly, a discordant symphony against the clatter of keyboards and the low murmur of interrogations. The air smelled of burnt coffee and floor wax. Sean marched his prisoner through the bullpen, parading her like a trophy. He wanted eyes on him. He wanted the sergeant to ask what happened. "What do we have here, O'Brien?" Sergeant Miller called out from the raised desk. Miller was a thick-set man with a mustache that had seen better decades. He looked tired. "Felony possession, attempt to distribute, fraud," Sean announced loudly. "Caught her trying to pass a bad script for heavy-duty oxy at the pharmacy on 4th. Miller peered over his glasses at the woman. She stood tall, despite the handcuffs. She looked out of place among the drunks and the petty thieves on the benches. She looked like she belonged in a cathedral or a boardroom. "Her?" Miller asked skeptically. "Don't let the knitting circle vibe fool you, Sarge," Sean said, unlinking the cuffs from her wrist to secure her to the booking bench. "She's tough. No ID refused to give a name." Sean pushed her down onto the metal bench. "Sit. Name. Now." She rubbed her wrists where the metal had dug into her skin. The red marks were vivid against her dark complexion. "I will speak to the watch commander," she said. "You'll speak to me." Sean slammed his hand on the table. From the corner of the room, a man in a sharp grey suit looked up. It was Jacob Turner, a public defender who spent more time in the precinct than some of the cops. He was young, brilliant, and notoriously sharp-tongued. He had been reviewing a file for a burglary suspect, but the commotion drew his attention. Jacob adjusted his glasses. He looked at the woman. He frowned. He didn't know her face immediately, She was turned slightly away, but he knew the posture. He knew the aura of authority. "Trouble, O'Brien?" Jacob called out, walking over. "Back off, Jacob," Sean warned. "This isn't your client." "Not yet," Jacob said. He looked at the woman. "Ma'am, you don't have to answer his questions until you have counsel present." "I am aware of the law, young man," she said. She turned fully to face Jacob. Jacob stopped. His breath hitched. He recognized her, not from the street but from a gala he had attended 2 years ago. A charity event for legal reform. She hadn't been a guest. She had been the keynote speaker. Jacob's eyes widened. He looked at Sean, then back at her. He opened his mouth to speak, to warn Sean, to scream that the sky was falling, but the woman caught his eye and gave a nearly imperceptible shake of her head. Silence, the gesture commanded. She wanted this to play out. Jacob closed his mouth, a cold sweat breaking out on his neck. He took a step back. "Right. Okay, I'll just be over here." Sean smirked at Jacob. "That's right. Go chase an ambulance." He turned back to her. "Last chance. Name." "My name," she said slowly, enunciating every syllable, "is Etta Mae Washington." Sean typed it into the computer. "Washington, common name. Let's see if you pop up." He hit enter. Nothing criminal, no warrants. "Clean record," Sean muttered. "Start of a late career, huh? Breaking Bad at 80? "I want my phone call," Etta Mae said. "After processing," Sean said. "Fingerprints first." He grabbed her hand to press it onto the digital scanner. She resisted slightly, then yielded. He rolled her fingers across the glass. The machine beeped. "There," Sean said. "Now you're in the system." "Officer O'Brien!" The voice came from the entrance of the precinct. It wasn't a shout, but it carried more power than a scream. Chief Henry Lewis walked in. He wasn't supposed to be there. The chief of police worked out of headquarters downtown, not the precinct. He was a tall man, imposing, with a reputation for being political, but fair. The room went silent. Cops stopped typing. Suspects stopped yelling. "Chief," Sean straightened up, puffing out his chest. "Good to see you, sir. I just brought in a—" Chief Lewis walked right past Sean. He didn't even look at him. He walked straight to the booking bench. He looked at the woman handcuffed to the rail. His face, usually stoic, drained of color. He looked terrified. "Etta," the chief whispered. Sean blinked. You know her, Chief." Etta Mae Washington looked up at the chief of police. Her expression softened, just a fraction. "Hello, Henry," she said. "I seem to be having a disagreement with your officer regarding a signature." "Signature?" Henry choked out. "Yes," she said calmly. "The one on my prescription. Officer O'Brien believes it is a forgery." Sean, feeling the ground wobble beneath him, pulled the crumpled paper from his pocket. "It's right here, Chief. Look at it." Illegible. Obviously fake. He shoved the paper toward the chief. Henry Lewis took the paper. His hands were trembling. He looked at the signature. He recognized it instantly. Anyone in the state legal system for the last 30 years would recognize it. "O'Brien," Henry said, his voice barely a whisper. "Sir, do you know whose signature this is?" "Some quack doctor," Sean guessed, his confidence faltering for the first time. Henry looked up, his eyes blazing with a mixture of fury and disbelief. "This is the signature of Dr. Anthony Fauci," Henry said, though that wasn't quite it. It was someone local, someone bigger. "No, wait." Henry squinted. "This isn't a doctor's signature at the bottom authorization line, O'Brien." "What?" "This is the countersign," Henry said, holding the paper up, "for a Class A federal witness medical override." Henry pointed to the messy scrawl. "That," Henry said, pointing to the woman, "is Judge Etta Mae Washington. She was the first black female federal judge in this district. She swore me in. She swore the mayor in. And this signature, this is the governor's private authorization." The silence in the precinct was absolute. It was heavy enough to crush a man. Sean looked at Etta May. She offered him a small, cold smile. "I told you to check the bottom line," she whispered. Sean felt the blood drain from his face, leaving him dizzy. The sound of his career ending wasn't a bang. It was the quiet, terrifying click of the chief unhooking Etta May's handcuffs. The silence in the precinct wasn't empty. It was heavy, suffocating, the kind of silence that precedes a detonation. Sean O'Brien stood in the center of the bullpen, his hands hovering uselessly near his belt, where his cuffs, now empty, still felt warm. Chief Henry Lewis didn't yell. That was the first sign that this wasn't a reprimand. It was an execution. "My office," Henry said, his voice low and devoid of any warmth. "Now, badge and gun on the desk before you sit down." Sean felt a phantom limb sensation as he unholstered his Glock and unpinned the silver shield he had polished that very morning. He placed them on the mahogany desk. They made a dull thud that echoed like a gavel strike. Henry didn't sit. He stood by the window, looking out at the city skyline, his back to Sean. "Do you know why Judge Washington had that prescription, O'Brien?" Henry asked. "No, sir," Sean stammered, his throat dry. I assumed it was for distribution. The quantity is for a 3-month supply because she is currently in a safe house." Henry turned, his face a mask of controlled fury. "She is the key witness in the RICO case against the Valenti crime family. Her identity is scrubbed from the public database for her protection. That scrawl you mocked, that was the governor's direct countersign, authorizing anonymity." Sean's stomach dropped through the floor. I didn't know. The system didn't flag it." "The system didn't flag it because you didn't listen." Henry slammed his hand on the desk, making Sean jump. "She told you. She gave you every opportunity to walk away. She warned you about the signature, but you were too busy imagining your detective shield to do basic police work." "I was doing my job," Sean argued, though the conviction was draining out of him. "I saw a suspicious transaction. Victor backed me up." "Victor is a coward who would sell his own mother to avoid an audit," Henry spat. "But Victor isn't the one who put handcuffs on a federal judge and dragged her through the precinct like a trophy buck. Do you have any idea what you've done? You didn't just violate her civil rights, you compromised her location. We have to move her tonight. The entire operation is at risk because you wanted a pat on the back." "I can fix this," Sean pleaded, desperation creeping in. "Let me apologize. I'll go to her." "You will not go near her," Henry cut him off, his voice icy. "You are effectively toxic, Sean. Jacob Turner is already drafting a lawsuit that is going to make the city bleed. But that's not your problem anymore." Henry picked up a piece of paper from his desk and slid it across to Sean. It was a suspension notice. Indefinite. Pending internal affairs investigation. "Administrative leave," Sean whispered, reading the header. "Unpaid?" "You're lucky you're not in a cell right now," Henry said. "Get out of my station, O'Brien, and pray she decides to be merciful. Because if she pushes for criminal negligence, that badge stays on my desk forever." The walk out of the precinct was the longest journey of Sean's life. The bullpen, usually loud with banter, fell silent as he passed. Eyes averted, conversations died. He looked for Aaron, his partner, hoping for a nod of solidarity, a look that said, "Tough break, kid." He found Aaron at his desk, typing a report. Aaron looked up, his eyes sad but resolved. He didn't nod. He didn't wave. He just looked at Sean for a long moment, then turned back to his screen and kept typing. Sean pushed through the double doors into the humid evening air, stripped of his authority, his purpose, and his pride. He was just a man in a uniform he no longer had the right to wear. The apartment was dark, lit only by the blue glow of the television and the streetlights filtering through the blinds. It had been 3 days. 3 days of silence from the department, and 3 days of noise from the world. Sean sat on his couch, surrounded by takeout containers he hadn't touched. He held his phone, doom-scrolling. The video had dropped 24 hours after the arrest. It wasn't security footage, it was worse. A teenager in the pharmacy queue had filmed the whole thing on a smartphone. The angle was low, making Sean look looming and monstrous as he twisted the arm of the small, dignified woman. The caption read, #police brutality. Cop assaults 80-year-old grandma over meds. It had 4 million views. The comments were a landslide of vitriol. Fire him. Lock him up. Power-tripping pig. He had been doxxed within hours. His phone number had to be changed. His social media was deleted, but screenshots of his old posts, gym selfies with captions about owning the streets, were being dissected and mocked. "They don't know," Sean muttered to the empty room, taking a swig of lukewarm beer. "They don't know the context." But deep down, he knew the context didn't help. The context was that he had been arrogant. His phone buzzed. It was Alex, a buddy from the academy who worked in narcotics. Sean grabbed it, desperate for a lifeline. "Alex? Man, tell me you have good news." "Sean," Alex's voice was tight. "Look, I can't really talk. I just wanted to give you a heads up. The union rep, he's not going to fight for you on this one." Sean sat up, the beer sloshing over his hand. "What? I pay my dues. They have to represent me." "It's politics, man," Alex sighed. "It's Judge Washington. She's an icon, Sean. The mayor is involved. The governor is involved. The union doesn't want to die on this hill. They're going to cut you loose to save the contract negotiations." "So that's it?" Sean's voice rose, cracking. "I'm the sacrificial lamb." "You messed up, Sean," Alex said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "I heard the audio from the body cam. She warned you, explicitly, and you laughed at her. It's indefensible. I gotta go." The line went dead. Sean threw the phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked, falling to the carpet. He paced the small living room, his mind racing. He needed an angle. He needed to prove he wasn't a monster. He needed to prove that she was suspicious. Victor, the pharmacist. Victor had been the one shaking, the one who called him over. Victor had initiated the panic. If Sean could get Victor on record saying he felt threatened, saying the script looked fake, he could share the blame. He grabbed his keys. He wasn't supposed to leave his apartment. The press was camped out front. But there was a back fire escape that led to the alley. He drove his personal car, a beat-up sedan, to the pharmacy. It was late, just before closing. He parked in the shadows and waited. Victor came out the back door, locking it nervously. He looked even more haggard than usual. Sean stepped out of the shadows. "Victor!" Victor jumped, dropping his keys. When he saw Sean, his face went pale. Sean, you shouldn't be here." "You hung me out to dry, Victor." Sean stepped closer, his hands balled into fists. "I need you to sign a statement. I need you to tell the review board that you flagged the script, that you told me it was a forgery." Victor took a step back, holding his hands up. I can't do that, Sean." "Why not? It's the truth." "It's not the truth," Victor cried out, his voice shrill. "I said I was confused. I said I didn't have the doctor in the system. You escalated it. You charged in there like a bull." "Because you looked terrified." "I was terrified of you," Victor shouted, the confession hanging in the damp air. "You come in there every week, staring at people waiting for a fight. I just wanted you to check it, not assault her. I already gave my statement to Internal Affairs, Sean. I told them everything. I told them you ignored her explanation." Sean stared at the little man, the realization washing over him like cold water. He had no allies. He had no defense. "Go home, Sean," Victor whispered, picking up his keys. "Before you make it worse." Sean stood alone in the alley as Victor drove away. The red taillights faded into the dark, leaving him with nothing but the hum of the city he used to think he owned. The summons came via courier 2 days later. It wasn't a court date, and it wasn't an IA hearing. It was a letter on thick, cream-colored stationery with a legal letterhead. Turner and Associates. "Mr. O'Brien, my client, Judge Etta May Washington, requests your presence at the St. Jude Community Center on 5th Street, room 4B, at 10 a.m. on Friday. Failure to appear will result in the immediate filing of a civil suit for damages totaling $5 million. Come alone. Sean stared at the paper. It was a trap. It had to be. Why a community centre? Why not a law office? He considered not going. He considered fleeing the state. But the threat of a $5 million lawsuit was an anchor he couldn't lift. He had no choice. Friday morning was overcast. Sean wore a suit he usually saved for weddings and funerals. It felt tight across the shoulders. He walked into the St. Jude Community Centre, a brick building in a neighbourhood he had only ever visited with sirens blaring. Inside, it smelled of floor wax and old books. He found room 4B. The door was open. It was a small library. Sitting at a round table, surrounded by stacks of law books and papers, was Etta Mae Washington. She wasn't wearing the heavy coat or the hat. She wore a simple blouse and a cardigan. Her cane leaned against the table. She looked smaller than he remembered, but her eyes were just as piercing. Jacob Turner, the lawyer, stood by the window. He nodded curtly at Sean, but didn't speak. "Sit down, Mr. O'Brien," Etta Mae said. She didn't look up from the file she was reading. Sean sat. The chair was plastic and uncomfortable. "Judge Washington, I am not interested in your apology," she cut him off, finally looking up. "Apologies are cheap. They are the currency of the guilty who wish to feel innocent again. I am interested in your understanding." "I understand I made a mistake," Sean said stiffly. "You made an assumption," she corrected. "Do you know what this place is?" She gestured around the room. "A community centre," Sean said. "It is a legal clinic," she said. "I founded it 40 years ago. I spend my days here helping young men who look like the ones you profile, navigate a system that is designed to crush them. Young men who make mistakes, yes, but who are rarely given the benefit of the doubt that you currently crave." She pushed a file across the table. It was a folder with Sean's name on it. "I have reviewed your service record, Mr. O'Brien. It is aggressive, high arrest rate, low conviction rate, a lot of resisting arrest charges, a lot of disorderly conduct." Sean felt defensive. "I work in a tough precinct." "You create a tough precinct," she said softly. "You view the people you serve as combatants. You view the law not as a shield, but as a sword. That day in the pharmacy, you didn't see a citizen. You saw a target." "I thought you were a mule," Sean blurted out. "The coat, the walk." "I have lupus," she said simply. "The coat keeps my joints warm. The walk is because I am in pain. Every day." Sean fell silent. The shame burned his cheeks. "I could destroy you, Sean." She used his first name, stripping away the last of his professional armor. "Jacob here has a lawsuit drafted that would take your pension, your savings, and your future. The department wants to fire you to save face. I could let them." "Then why am I here?" Sean asked, his voice barely audible. "Because destroyed men do not learn," Etta Mae said. "They only become bitter, and a bitter ex-cop is of no use to the world." She leaned forward, clasping her hands. "I am offering you a choice. Option A. We proceed with the lawsuit. You lose everything. You become a cautionary tale on the nightly news." "And option B?" Sean asked, afraid to hope. "Option B," Etta Mae smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a teacher setting a difficult exam. "You resign from the force voluntarily. You publicly admit your wrongdoing. And then, you come work for me." Sean blinked. "Work for you? Doing what? Security?" "No," she shook her head. "Here, in the clinic, filing paperwork, listening to the stories of the people you used to arrest, learning the law from the other side of the desk. You will see the fallout of arrests like yours. You will see the families broken by gut instincts and proactive policing." "For how long?" "Until I'm satisfied that you understand the weight of the badge you used to wear," she said. "It might take a year, It might take 10, but that is the price of your redemption. Sean looked at Jacob, who just shrugged as if to say, take the deal. He looked back at Etta May. He thought about the empty apartment, the silence of his phone, the look on Aaron's face. He realized he had nothing left to defend. The career he wanted was dead. The only question was what kind of man would survive it. I don't know anything about legal work, Sean said. Then you had better start reading. Etta May pushed a thick law book across the table. Chapter 1 is on due process. Sean stared at the book. It was heavy. He reached out and placed his hand on the cover. It felt solid, real. I'll take it, Sean whispered. Good. Etta May picked up her pen. Be here Monday at 8 a.m. Don't be late. And Sean? Yes, Judge? Leave the arrogance at the door. It takes up too much space in a small room. Sean nodded. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a cop. He felt like a rookie. And for the first time since the pharmacy, he felt like he could breathe. The smell of the St. Jude Community Center was different from the precinct. The precinct smelled of stale coffee and anxiety. The clinic smelled of dust, cheap printer toner, and quiet desperation. For the first month, Sean O'Brien was a ghost. He arrived at 8 a.m. sharp, dressed in slacks and a button-down shirt that felt like a costume. He sat at a small, wobbly desk in the corner, far away from the intake area. His job was to organize files, decades of them, case after case of petty theft, drug possession, loitering, and disorderly conduct. He hated it. He hated the silence. He hated the lack of adrenaline. He hated that his hands, once used to holding a steering wheel and a weapon, were now covered in paper cuts. You're filing that wrong, Jacob Turner said, dropping a fresh stack of folders onto Sean's desk. Sean looked up, his jaw tightening. Jacob didn't like him. That much was clear. To Jacob, Sean was the enemy who had been allowed inside the gates. Alphabetical by last name, Sean muttered. I know the alphabet, counselor. By case type first, then alphabetical, Jacob corrected, tapping the label on the folder. If you filed these in a police database, they'd be lost forever. Here, a lost file means someone goes to jail who shouldn't. Pay attention. Sean gritted his teeth, but resorted the stack. He wanted to quit. Every day, he thought about walking out the door and never coming back. He could move to another state, maybe work private security. But then he would hear the tap-tap-tap of the cane. Etta May Washington didn't come in every day. Her lupus flared up with the changing weather. But when she did, her presence filled the cramped office. She never asked him how he was doing. She asked him what he was reading. State versus Henderson, Sean answered one rainy Tuesday, holding up the thick law book. Eyewitness identification reliability. And? Etta May asked, settling into her chair with a wince of pain she tried to hide. And it says that high-stress situations compromise memory recall, Sean recited. That cross-racial identification has a high margin of error. Did you believe that when you were on the beat? She asked. No, Sean admitted. I thought I saw everything perfectly. I thought my gut was evidence. The gut is a liar, Etta May said, opening a file. The law is the truth. Keep reading. The turning point came in the 3rd month. A woman came in, hysterical. Her son, barely 18, had been picked up for intent to sell because he was standing on a corner with $50 in cash and a new pair of sneakers. Jacob was in court. Etta May was at a doctor's appointment. The receptionist was overwhelmed. Sean watched from his corner. He knew the look on the mother's face. He had seen it 100 times from the other side of the windshield. Usually he would have rolled his eyes, thinking, another parent in denial. But now, he had read the file. He had read the intake form. The kid, Marcus, worked at a car wash. The cash was his tips. The sneakers were a birthday gift. Sean stood up. He walked over to the woman. Ma'am, he said. His voice was different now, softer, less commanding. Let me see the arrest report. She looked at him with suspicion, clutching the crumpled paper. Who are you? You a lawyer? No, Sean said. I used to be a cop. I know how to read what they didn't write. She hesitated, then handed him the paper. Sean scanned it. He saw the keywords he used to use. Furtive movements. Aggressive stance. Known drug area. It was a template, a cut-and-paste job to justify a stop and frisk. Here, Sean grabbed a highlighter from the desk. He marked 3 lines. They messed up the timeline. They claimed they found the cache before they had probable cause to search, and the officer didn't log the stop time correctly. He grabbed a notepad and scribbled down a series of codes and questions. When the public defender gets here, Sean said, handing her the note, tell him to ask for the body cam footage from the first 2 minutes. Specifically ask for the audio before the Miranda warning. They didn't have cause. This case will get tossed in a pre-trial hearing. The woman looked at the note, then at Sean, her eyes filled with tears. Thank you. God bless you. Sean felt a strange sensation in his chest. It wasn't the rush of a bust. It was warmer. It was the feeling of actually protecting someone. Mr. O'Brien, a voice said from the doorway. Sean froze. Etta May was standing there. She had seen the whole thing. I stepped out of line, Sean stammered. I know I'm not supposed to give legal advice. Etta May walked over to him. She looked at the notepad, then at the mother, who was now calming down. You didn't give legal advice, Etta May said slowly. You gave tactical insight, and for the first time in 3 months, you made yourself useful. She walked past him toward her office, but stopped at the door. You can move your desk closer to the front, Sean. It seems you have an eye for the details after all. 6 months later, Sean walked with a different stride. The swagger was gone, replaced by a purposeful, efficient gait. He carried a briefcase now, not a gun. Inside were affidavits, witness statements, and a thermos of coffee for Etta May. He was walking back from the courthouse, where he had been filing motions for Jacob. The city felt different to him. He didn't scan the crowds for threats anymore. He scanned them for injustice. He turned the corner onto 5th Street, 2 blocks from the clinic. He saw the lights first, the flashing red and blue that used to be his heartbeat. A patrol car was pulled up on the sidewalk. 2 officers were standing over a man sitting on the curb. The man looked homeless, disheveled, muttering to himself. One of the officers was young, maybe 23. Fresh fade, polished boots, chest puffed out. He was poking the man's shoulder with his baton. I said move it along, dirtbag, the rookie snapped. You can't be here. I'm waiting for the bus, the man mumbled, pointing to the sign. Bus don't stop for trash, the rookie laughed, looking at his partner for approval. The partner was older, leaning against the car, looking bored. Sean stopped. He knew that rookie, not the name but the type. He was that rookie, the arrogance, the need to dominate the space, the belief that the badge granted him the right to be cruel. Sean approached. He didn't yell. He didn't run. He walked calmly into the circle of interaction. Is there a problem here, officers? Sean asked. The rookie spun around, hand dropping to his holster instinctively. Back up, citizen. Official police business. I'm standing on a public sidewalk, Sean said, planting his feet. And I'm observing an interaction with a member of the community. What is the probable cause for the detention? He's loitering, the rookie sneered, and he's resisting a lawful order. He's sitting at a bus stop, Sean gestured to the sign. That's not loitering under City Ordinance 45B, unless he's been there for more than an hour or is obstructing pedestrian traffic. He's doing neither. The rookie's face turned red. Who are you? A lawyer? I work for the Washington Legal Clinic, Sean said. But more importantly, I know that you're about to violate his Fourth Amendment rights if you put your hands on him again without articulating a crime. The rookie stepped forward, getting in Sean's face. You want to go for obstruction? I can find a pair of cuffs for you too, buddy. Sean didn't flinch. He looked the rookie in the eye. He saw the insecurity behind the aggression. You're wearing a body cam, Sean said softly. It's blinking. If you arrest me, that footage gets pulled. And if you arrest him for waiting for a bus, That footage gets pulled, and I will make sure your sergeant reviews it. Is this worth the paperwork, officer? Is this worth the reprimand? The rookie hesitated. He looked at Sean, then at his partner. The older partner pushed off the car. He walked over, squinting at Sean. Sean? The partner asked. Sean looked at the older cop. It was Aaron, his old partner. Aaron looked older, more tired. He looked at Sean's suit, the briefcase, the calm demeanor. Then he looked at the rookie who was still posturing. Stand down, Miller, Aaron said to the rookie. But he's interfering. I said stand down, Aaron barked. He turned to Sean. You look good, Sean, healthy. I am, Sean said. How have you been, Aaron? Surviving, Aaron said. He looked at the homeless man. Bus comes in 10 minutes. We're leaving. Aaron? Sean said as they turned to go. Aaron stopped. Tell the kid, Sean nodded at the rookie, that the badge is heavy enough without adding your own ego to it. Aaron smiled, a sad, genuine smile. I'll tell him. Good to see you, Sean. Sean watched the patrol car drive away. He turned to the man on the curb. You okay? Sean asked. They always mess with me, the man sighed. Not today, Sean said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card for the clinic. If they come back, you come see us. Ask for Sean. He walked the rest of the way to the clinic, his heart beating steady and slow. He realized then that Etta May hadn't punished him. She had saved him. The year ended not with a bang, but with the quiet scratch of a pen. It was a Tuesday in November. The leaves outside were brown and brittle, swirling against the glass of the clinic door. Sean was packing up his desk. His sentence was officially over. He had expected to feel relieved. Instead, he felt unmoored. He had applied to law school at night, accepted for the spring semester, but the thought of leaving the clinic felt like leaving home. Sean. Etta May was in her office. She looked frail today. The winter was hard on her bones. She was sitting in her leather chair, wrapped in a shawl. Judge, Sean said, standing in the doorway. Come in. Close the door. Sean sat in the chair opposite her, the same chair where, a year ago, she had given him the ultimatum. Jacob tells me you were accepted to Georgetown, she said. Yes, Ma'am. Night classes. Good. We need more lawyers who know how a cop thinks, she nodded. She reached into her drawer and pulled out a small velvet box. She placed it on the desk. Do you know why I didn't sue you, Sean? She asked. Because you wanted to teach me a lesson. No, she shook her head. I didn't sue you because I saw your eyes in that pharmacy. Sean frowned. I was angry. I was arrogant. You were, she agreed. But you were also afraid. You were terrified of being mediocre. You wanted to matter. You just didn't know how. She pushed the velvet box toward him. You arrested me because of a signature, she said. You thought it was fake because it looked messy. You didn't understand that power doesn't need to be neat. It just needs to be authentic. Sean opened the box. Inside was an old, expensive fountain pen. The black lacquer was chipped in places. It had clearly been used for decades. That is the pen I used to sign the desegregation order for the district schools in 1974, Etta May said softly. It is the pen I used to sign my oath of office. And it is the pen I used to sign that prescription you hated so much. Sean stared at the pen. It was a piece of history. I can't take this, Sean whispered. You have earned it, she said sternly. You have learned that the law is not a weapon to bludgeon the weak. It is a tool to lift them up. You saved that boy Marcus. You stood up to Officer Miller. You have done the work. She leaned forward, her eyes locking onto his. The police force lost an officer, Sean, but the city gained a guardian. Don't ever let me catch you misusing my pen. Sean picked up the pen. It felt heavy, balanced. It felt like responsibility. I won't, Sean said, his voice thick with emotion. Thank you, Etta, for everything. Go on now. She waved a hand dismissively. turning back to her papers to hide the mist in her own eyes. Jacob needs help with a deposition. And Sean? Yes? Check the signature on the bottom line of your law school application. I countersigned it as your recommendation. Sean smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. He walked out of the office, past the files, past the intake desk, and out into the crisp autumn air. He wasn't Officer O'Brien anymore. He wasn't the man who arrested an elderly woman for a signature. He was Sean. And for the first time in his life, that was enough. The story of Sean O'Brien and Judge Etta Mae Washington isn't just about a mistake. It's about the devastating power of assumption and the incredible capacity for change. Sean thought power came from the badge on his chest, but he learned that true power comes from the humility to listen. He lost his career in a single sentence, but he found his humanity in the silence that followed. Karma didn't hit Sean to destroy him. It hit him to wake him up. And sometimes, the hardest fall leads to the most important rise. If this story touched you, or if you believe in the power of second chances, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. What would you have done in Sean's shoes? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single one. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a story that challenges the way you see the world. Thanks for watching and stay curious.